So if we start at the beginning, a couple of years ago, the RICS set up or established the EWS 1 form or certificate, which was part of the whole reform following the Grenfell disaster. The certificate, if you like, it's not a safety certificate, it's not a fire certificate, it's effectively a mortgage valuation tool. So what it effectively means is those tenants, leaseholders, residents in high-rise buildings over 18 metres that potentially have unsafe cladding means they have effectively an unmortgageable property. So therefore what happened is the Building Safety Fund was established by the government. It's managed through the Greater London Authority as well as Homes England, and it gives a solution to those, as I said, leaseholders, residents that are in unmortgageable properties. So the next stage for leaseholders or residents is to firstly establish whether the building is over 18 metres, i.e. it's a high-rise building, and then also to establish whether there is a likelihood of unsafe cladding materials being on the building that will be eligible works, which we'll come on to later. Once they've done that, the next stage really is to work out who is the responsible entity. So that could be the freeholder, it could be an RTM, which is a rights to manage company, whomever. That person then becomes the applicant. So they will register their interest with the Building Safety Fund, and within a few weeks or whatever the time period is at the time in question, they will get a response from the Building Safety Fund whether their application, if you like, can proceed. Once they've got that sort of green light, if you like, the next stage is what they call part one or stage one of funding. And this is effectively pre-tender support. So this gives the responsible entity, the residents, the leaseholders, if you like, the funds to actually initiate the project and appoint sort of the technical team, procure surveys and the likes. And then, which is a bit later on down the line, you have part two, which is around the cost of the works, which we can talk about later. So starting with the technical designer or the architect, they're responsible for assessing the existing cladding conditions through survey, investigations, information, and then they're responsible for coming up with some design proposals that remediate the existing cladding. They're then supported by a fire engineer who will, at that initial stage, pre-contract, will be advising the technical designer in accordance with all different sort of standards, regulations and the likes, and will be ultimately responsible at the end of the project for signing off and obtaining the EWS 1 certificate. We then have the improved inspector, the same as the fire engineer, will be there to provide consultation and initial advice whilst the technical designers coming up with the design proposals, but also that just prior to pre-contracts starting on site, to obviously then make sure that the plan checks go through and the notifications are issued, and also ultimately at the end of the project that the building control certificate is achieved. You have the principal designer who's responsible for the pre-construction health and safety, so making sure the design and operational maintenance of any proposal cladding systems are safe. We have the facade consultant, so they're again another advisor with more specialist detail experience and capability on the proposed cladding systems, the build-ups, the sort of the real technical side of the solution. Then you have the cost consultant that's there to provide early cost advice to the technical team, as well as providing a sort of tender estimate prior to the contractor being on board, as well as verifying any contractor costs and then in the construction valuations and the like, normal stuff. And then you have the project manager who will manage the whole process, even through early application advice, appointing the technical team that we just talked about, managing that technical team, and managing the project right the way through to obtaining the EWS 1 certification. So eligible and non-eligible works, in the simplest form, as concise as can be, eligible works are those that are fundable under the Building Safety Fund. Non-eligible works are those works that are identified as part of the remediation of the cladding by either the technical designer, approved inspector or fire engineer that have to be carried out or should be carried out that are not covered by the fund. So unfortunately for leaseholders, residents, tenants, non-eligible works have to be funded outside of the Building Safety Fund, so effectively by them. Now hopefully, and in most circumstances, there'd be a maintenance fund that's obviously paid into annually as part of the leasehold agreements. So that's probably one source of funding, but ultimately the non-eligible works have to be funded by residents, tenants, leaseholders. So Evolution 5 are currently working on 4 to 5 cladding remediation projects. 3 of those are in a reasonable sized development in Bristol. We're appointed as project manager and cost consultant, and our role or task activities, if you like, typically cover a real sort of spectrum. So we involved early stages where we're helping with applications or appeals if applications are unsuccessful. We're appointing the technical team. So we talked about earlier about the technical designer, the fire engineer, approved inspector, so we'll be responsible for appointing the team. We're then responsible for managing the team. We also put together the integrated project program, so that's a delivery program, which is a great document, not just obviously to manage the project, manage the team. It's a great document for the leaseholders and residents to know what's happening and be able to monitor progress against that. We're also responsible for communication plans, so that's around maybe reports or really good accurate minutes from meetings held with the design team or the client that can be fed back to the stakeholders and again leaseholders and the residents. We also do the costing aspects, so we talked about earlier about the early cost advice, doing a pre-tender estimate, and the real important stage then is the procurement of the building contractors. So the schemes we're working on, we're doing a sort of a GMP, which is a guaranteed maximum price, on a 2-stage tender. So sort of first stage where we deal with the prelims and the overhead and profits, as well as sort of rates on the quantity to get to a sort of GMP, if you like. And then we work with the building contractor through stage 2, which is still pre-contract, and stage 1 under the BSF to get to a deliverable solution. And then once we kind of get to there, finalise the costs within the GMP, we're ready for start on site. And at that stage, we would have dealt with the stage 2 BSF funding. Once on site, it's all kind of regular project management, employer's agent, cost consultant tasks, with the exceptions, obviously, consideration of leaseholders and tenants and residents, because obviously the type of work really impact the quality of their lives. So, they're going to end up with scaffolding up, maybe monoflex, so, missing maybe natural daylight, cladding coming off of the building outside of their homes. So again, you've got thermal consideration. If there's balcony works, they don't get used to their balcony. The doors may be locked shut. So there's some real challenges in construction as well that we have to deal with by good communication and making sure that the contractor also has like a resident liaison officer. So all the way through the process, great communication, real consideration for those most impacted by the project. So we're going to provide a link to a blog that we've produced previously on the Building Safety Fund, which provides also a flowchart for the Building Safety Fund application process. I really hope you have found value in this video. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact us, and we really look forward to hearing from you.